everyone. This is Alicia, Liz, and Ann, and we're Servant Decoded, and we are back to deep dive into season 4, episode 2, titled Itch. This is a pack full of stuff, huh, guys?
Pack full of stuff.
Yeah, a lot going on.
My super eloquent opening line.
So many horrible things.
Okay, so how did this episode make you feel in one word?
It's bad. That's 2 words.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And gross, itchy.
I think mine was more like a WTF.
Sure.
Or damn, because I said that a bunch too when we were chatting. We were chatting on Discord. And
That's a lot of damn.
WTF, damn.
Not good.
Use your words, Alicia.
There are only so many.
Okay, so Itch. Let's talk about the title.
So yeah, Itch, obviously relates to the bed bugs and Dorothy itching throughout the episode. Ugh, those bed bugs. But I thought a deeper meaning was the itch that Leanne can't scratch. She wants so badly just to be a part of this family and have Dorothy love her. And no matter what she does, she can't find peace or satisfaction or relief, I should say. And then, of course, there's that thing she says to Julian when they're in the nursery about how horrible it feels to be taken for granted. It's infuriating. It's like bugs crawling under your skin. And then I looked up itch and the Bible. There's one mention. It's about itching ears. And it is 2 Timothy 4:3. It's a very quick quote. The time will come when man will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. So basically, it just means being a good Christian is not always easy. It can be hard. And some people might turn to false prophets for an easier path. It's a warning. And prophet might be Leanne.
I think so. That's a great analogous, I think, story, and very, very interesting. I think there's been a lot of cues that indicate that Leanne is a false prophet, don't you guys?
Absolutely.
For sure. I don't know how I feel about prophet. Oh, I guess if you have a following, I guess you're a prophet of some sort. No, that's probably the most appropriate word. It just doesn't seem like she's really Messiah, some similar thing. I mean, anything. I just figured that was kind of extreme because she doesn't seem to have one sort of position, but I guess she don't really need a position to be believed in. Right, that, and she defied whomever was in control of those people before, so I guess that alone is impressive. Whether that's good or bad doesn't really matter. I mean, I guess depending on where you're coming from.
Well, she's not standing on a soapbox and preaching, but she is warning of this war to come.
That's what I mean. They were impressed by her ability to just be like, I don't know, like just shake everybody off essentially. But also she's got the Turners wrapped up in this nonsense, which is not the same. I mean, I guess, you fake a baby or don't fake a baby. I guess that's part of the same thing. It's just a different sort of what they want.
She's given them all what she thinks they want. Right.
What she thinks they want. Very good. Yeah, exactly.
To control them, to not pacify, mollify. That's not the right word.
No, that's right. Pacify is pretty good. Mollify, I think, is more scared, right? But that's, yeah, I mean, that she's used those tactics as well.
And her followers, as far as we know, are defectors from the cult.
Exactly.
Yeah, so she's there's a word I'm looking for. I can't find it, but yeah, it's like a hypnotic, lulling them into submission.
Kind of a corruption. Exactly.
With empty vices.
I mean, it makes me think of in this episode when Sean is talking at the end about how GQ wants him to come back the next day and do the bigger interview, and he doesn't understand, and he says it's like I can do no wrong.
Exactly. Because he cannot. Because he's glamored. Yeah.
Yeah, they're glamored. Yeah, in the beginning, Leanne's like, GQ is calling. GQ is waiting, Sean.
And I guess she feels like what Julian wants sex or love.
To be Julian.
Yeah, she's like, oh, what did she say? Did she call him perfect too, or something to that effect? Like, she's just like, you're fine, everything's fine. So he's just satiated, I guess, in that relationship, or whatever you want to call that situation.
Oh yeah. If he's sniffing her clothes, then
I didn't say he was okay.
Yeah.
I just mean,
but yeah, I mean, Julian did that turnaround in season 3, going sober. And then she was like, well, 1 glass of wine won't hurt. I won't let you fall.
yeah, that's
And
manipulative.
now it's like, do you, babe? Drink scotch in the middle of the day with your dad. We'll make out in the nursery. What's wrong? Why aren't you happy?
He's not totally sold on it, which is probably going to be a problem later.
Thinks Dorothy wants what? The baby.
That's it.
I think it's just the baby.
And I guess maybe the ability to walk again, or at least a little more agency, a little more control. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot, even though she sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
God, poor Dorothy.
So that's great. No, I love that insight into the title.
For sure.
I think that's all pretty. Yeah. So we're going to do a quick recap of the episode, and then we'll talk about the points that we felt were extra special and weren't discussing. It's all special. I know it. Every moment. Can we talk about every moment?
It's a little precious.
So I assume if you're here listening to us, you've watched it. So I won't go into too much detail, but obviously the episode was about this adjustment period, we'll call it, to Dorothy being in bed. I think it's an interesting parallel. Okay, so that's one thing that we are going to talk about throughout this, is the parallels within this episode to other things from other seasons, because it was rife with it. I mean, it everywhere. And even watching it, taking notes, like as I'm talking, I'm still thinking about new ones that I didn't think about the first time. So her in the bed, unable to go anywhere, really made me think of when she was on bed rest with whatever baby, right? And she couldn't get out of the bed. And and then the hazmat suits, and there were so many of them. It was right. Bananas. Okay, so the episode begins with, this is interesting. The episode begins with us seeing Dorothy waking up and her eye opening, which, again, it seems normal, but I don't think that we have ever started an episode with her waking up and seeing her eye open. I pointed out on our talks multiple times that it's usually Sean who is waking up, or we see Sean's eye opening. I would say, I don't want to like stake my everything on it, but I'm pretty sure that this is the first time we actually see her wake up, because usually it's Sean.
Yeah, I meant to ask you about that, Alicia. You've been tracking that.
So I don't know what that means, but I thought that was interesting. So we see her wake up. I did think that maybe it was tied into the concept of her waking up little by little throughout the season, whether it's by her own doing or things that other people are doing to push that, which we will.
That's good. I like that.
So we see her waking up in bed, disoriented, hearing Jericho crying. She's kind of freaking out. Leanne is suddenly there trying to take care of her, and obviously that's a non-starter for her. She's clearly terrified.
Yes.
And they're trying to fix, Leanne seems to think that they need to fix a nice breakfast for Dorothy.
Make it special, right? It wasn't her favorite, but make it special with a smiley face.
Who doesn't love oatmeal? Yeah. Oh boy.
That'll fix everything.
So this is really like an interesting exchange, because we get to see Leanne putting her Dorothy pants on and bossing Sean and Julian around.
She was fully in charge.
She really studied Dorothy so much in that first season. And I think that this is her trying to step into Dorothy's shoes and be Dorothy in a way.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Absolutely. There was that odd note where she's saying, Sean, you've got your GQ thing. And Sean says, maybe I should stay home. And Lan says very confidently, no, what Dorothy needs is normalcy right now. So you should go. GQ was waiting. In my notes, I wrote, since when is it normal for Sean to leave in the mornings, to be gone all day? Right?
That's true too. It's a good point. Very good point.
Also, Sean's not cooking. I don't know if that's be something for me. I don't know what it's supposed to be, but he's like not cooking. Bring something for later. And then Leanne messed up the cake. And then everybody, no, Sean's not cooking. I don't know if I'm not sure to what end. But I mean, like, you're being pulled away from the thing that like is your calling or is supposedly like, and that's like reflected in him making the like specific sandwiches for like the use in the park. And now he's like not even doing that, but he's kind of not the highest level you could be as a chef, but he's like pretty up there in terms of fame or whatever. If you're on TV yelling at people and being an absolute big bag and making money that way, like clearly it doesn't really matter if you're good or not. It's just a face. It's not like something is.
Oh, that's interesting, Aunt.
Wow, you're right.
Who was prepping dinner at the end?
And he's not cooking. He's not like doing the thing.
Yeah, but it's not making him happy. It's not satisfying.
Great point.
Right. That's a really good point.
We've talked so much about the wonderful talent of all the actors in the show. And I think sometimes, Nell has had less to do, maybe not less to do.
Well, she was quieter. If that's what you mean. Yeah.
She's quieter. Yeah.
And she's still like quietly terrifying.
And that makes it kind of easy for, Dorothy and Julian, for Lauren and Rupert to really kind of steal the attention and steal the show.
And you have like two gigantic names. I mean, that's,
Right, exactly. And I love them, but it's been really cool to see Nell shift, like I'm very impressed with how she has evolved Leanne as a person and character each season in small ways. And when you watch her now this season, she's so different, but the same. You know what I mean? Like it feels like you get it. You understand how she got here. But I'm also fascinated. I was just so impressed watching her. She's totally different. Her voice is different. She changed everything in these ways that are so significant and yet also make sense. And so I just want to give a shout out to her acting this week.
Yeah, even down to her hair,
makeup.
You were talking about mimicking Dorothy. She's got the waves now. She wears her hair the way Dorothy does, kind of, and the form-fitting dresses, nice shoes.
Oh yeah. You're right. The shoes. You're right. Now, are those the shoes that they bought on that first shopping trip together, or were those red shoes? Can't remember.
Right. Exactly.
They made a point to show that too when she spit the sauce out.
Yeah, but unusual to see her in pumps. Yeah. Heels.
I have to go back and look.
Okay, so they have that moment in the kitchen, and she brings the food up to Dorothy, who, is very much not wanting anything to do with it, is no more pretense. She's very, very clear with Leanne about how she feels and what she does and does not want, and feels as though Jericho's being kept from her. Side note, I did find it strange that it sounded to me like she had not seen Jericho.
Right.
Well, why? She's been in the hospital.
But they would have brought him to visit her. You have visitors.
Not if you're under the control of some witchy, weird little girl.
And Julian brought Jericho when they came home from the hospital.
Do you have a point?
So where were they if they weren't with Dorothy?
That's what I'm saying.
And also, I know kids grow pretty quick, but 3 months, he was like toddling. He was like a toddler. Like, am I wrong? I guess.
A year now, technically, right?
But still, like, she was like, he's so big. Like,
he looks bigger, but I don't think that like an inappropriate size for what his
No,
age.
I don't mean too long. It's just like it's been long enough that he's like different from what she remembers. If that was because they made a point to point it out, like
Oh, for her to be like, you got so big.
yeah, not like
Right.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
right,
I believe they said that she was in rehab for a few months, right?
right, yeah.
And do we know what time of year it was when she fell? Wasn't it March when season 3 was occurring? And now we're in the fall.
Yeah.
Like Octoberish or around
October.
there.
Yeah. We've got to be in October. There's pumpkins everywhere.
They're gonna do Halloween soon.
So it's 6 months, not 3. They did say 3 in rehab. So it could have been
Hospital and then rehab, right?
That's usually how it goes.
When she was in rehab, she would have had visitors, and that's when you would expect her to have seen Jericho. So
You would think it's not inappropriate to bring a child to a hospital.
And if Julian was at the hospital with them and he brought Jericho in, the only other option would be that he had dropped Jericho off somewhere and picked him up on the way home.
Well, with Leanne or whatever.
no, Lan was being attacked.
Because I remember thinking that through the episode, going like, where's Jericho? Why is she not watching him?
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Obviously he couldn't ride in the ambulance with Dorothy, but he was with
Right.
them at the center to pick her up and take her home. So
Yeah. So it was just it was a strange comment to me. I mean, I guess if you have somebody that's overly emotive, they might say, I miss you and you've gotten so big and be exaggerating, even if it was like a day. But that doesn't make sense either to me. So there's something off there. Spidey sense of weirdness popped up.
Even if it's just time passed, that's like not a good thing.
Yeah.
And then Dorothy says the wrong thing. Oh, I can't pick you up, but
yeah.
I can hold you. And pretty soon it's just going to be you and me forever. Just the two of us. And Leanne immediately says, wrong answer. Wrong. Not what we were looking for. Jericho has to go.
Bye-bye. She snatched him up fast.
I wonder, like, I mean, I know it's like tactics for control, but like, what is your end goal, really? We're just gonna have her be like this, like, nervous captive? Well, yeah, great, but then like Dorothy's gonna have to, I don't know, I guess,
She's going to establish dominance while simultaneously making Dorothy love her again.
So before she saw Jericho, Leanne presented her with the quilt that she had made her. And oh my goodness.
Messed up.
Death onesie in the center.
That's right.
Of the quilt. So big deal moment. Definitely an oh my God. Dorothy was not happy about that. And you could tell that she knew that she had a connection to the onesie, right? She looked, and that's what I was thinking when I said, her waking up. I think there's going to be all these little moments leading to her.
Yeah.
They made a point to show it. So.
Right.
And what she says, it's a mother's job, pause. And I thought, to keep a baby safe.
So, and clearly that resonated with Leanne. I think she did genuinely, like, it's funny because obviously she did that to purposefully antagonize Dorothy or to try and kind of maybe force
intimidate her.
Yeah, but then turns around and apologizes for doing it and acts like she feels bad.
No, I think she did feel bad.
Leanne doesn't, she's a child, teenager, whatever. Like,
she still wants the approval, even if she is like, it's like, fuck you, love me.
Yeah.
Right. Emotionally, she's the teenager. Emotionally, she's like 15.
Yeah.
Right.
Terrible teens.
So that happens. And then that's how she basically apologizes, is by bringing Jericho in for a visit, so long as Dorothy eats some food. Which made me so upset. I don't know, like that moment made me so angry, like at Leanne. I just thought it was so messed up. Oh my God.
It's all pretty intense. That was all. And then it escalated. I was like, wow, they really went for it. And then they went for it again.
Really, really did.
Wild.
We have a moment with Julian going into Leanne's room and looking at the youths outside of the room. And I thought it was interesting how there were a handful of them that all looked up at the same time at him. And he kind of flipped himself away from the window as though he like didn't want to be seen, which I thought was interesting. And then he gets the call from Sean, who says, "Why isn't Dorothy answering my calls?" Well, this is because she doesn't have her phone because Leanne took it in an effort to continue to control her and make it. We think maybe that she, one of the reasons she did it was because she did not want Dorothy calling Sean and Julian and other people to come and help, because she wanted to be the one to be able to help Dorothy and control things.
And at the end of the last episode, she wasn't allowed in the room. And I think in this episode, she's determined to have that alone time with Dorothy.
Yeah.
To get things to where she wants them to be.
And then she gets
Right.
it because she makes Sean go to the other meeting. And then, I mean, I don't know if she makes Sean go to the other meeting, but like it seems like she has influence that way as well. Like, why did you leave me alone? Well, I had to go to the thing.
Right.
But yeah, that seemed to be the point. And then Julian backs her up by saying, "She's fine, Sean. You know, things are, Leanne's with her. It's okay."
Yeah.
Right. That was interesting. Julian said some things in this episode that I just found to be baffling. But yeah, one of the things he says is that he's like, he says that everything's okay. She's with Leanne. She's fine. Everything's fine. I'm sure she's just resting. Oh, I did wonder though, like, you're sure she's just resting? Like, why don't you go and check?
Not allowed to.
Yeah. Why not go and check, even if you just peek in on her? So I just thought that was weird that he won't go in to like see her or talk to her. We haven't seen him go in there at all.
Oh, that's right.
And that just goes back to Leanne's, what she says in the very end. They love you, but they're more afraid of me. And that's why they won't come in here if they know I'm in here.
Yeah.
But I imagine that extends to, you don't go in there at all.
Right.
Right. That's what I would think too.
And it's interesting because when I watched it the first time, I didn't necessarily notice that, but then the second time it was so obvious once she had said it. Yeah. And then Julian smells her shirt, so just that was a little weird. Got to, only because it's not like they're in a long distance relationship. He just saw her.
Right.
He's weird. He sucks.
Some interesting camera shots, I thought.
Oh yeah.
We definitely had a couple of like the observation from above moments, but I really thought the most interesting one was where we see, I guess, Dorothy's head is like just her eyes and her forehead, and then she opens her eyes, and then Lan is there, like glow all around her, almost Virgin Mary.
I noted that. Yeah, this is where she apologizes for the blanket.
Right. Yeah. She does. And so that's interesting too. Again, perhaps that is meant to sort of be, again, like false imaging, idolatry, that type of, I don't know.
She also probably didn't mean it.
Yeah.
No, I think she meant it.
Oh.
But I was going to say also Dorothy was on pain meds. So we get the fuzzy camera work,
This is true.
She's kind of coming in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
That always colors things.
She does look very angelic, I think is interesting. People have talked about how she's possibly an angel, but I think fallen angel is probably more along the right lines. Julian also said, "Don't worry, Sean, okay? The worst of it is over."
Right. What do you talking about? Worst of what? I noted that too.
I wrote, how often do you think they say that to each other?
That might be right, actually.
And
it just keeps escalating, so it's like this weird little reassuring thing.
Exactly.
It's true.
Or like, one of those little sarcasms.
No, I think they really mean it. Like, how much worse can it get?
So after she removes Jericho, she goes downstairs.
But when she removes Jericho, Dorothy calls out, not when she's in the room, "I hate you."
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And when Leanne goes in the kitchen with Toby, she's been crying. She's wiping away tears and sniffling, and she won't come out and say it, but she says Dorothy said, and then Toby gives her those words of wisdom, which seem kind of weird, but
oh, Toby. Maybe he remains unaffected for some reason.
Well, just like the advice he gave her, it was kind of out of context. Like sometimes if you want to make someone,
you just have to show them that you trust them.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not wrong, but it's not quite.
But it wasn't really related to what she was complaining about.
Yeah, not. I mean, no, kind of the inverse, actually. Yeah.
So she slips the phone when Dorothy's asleep.
Puts it back. Right, and that's her gesture.
And then she goes out to get the flowers.
Right.
And she tells Toby, who's cleaning the oven,
It doesn't see.
I picked these for Dorothy. Oh, doorbell.
Dorothy. So robotic and weird. Ed is in the oven and he doesn't ever see it. It was so strange.
And then doorbell walks off and Toby's like, wait, what? Ow.
What? Toby coming out of the oven doing this is all of us. If you could see me right now, you would see me looking both ways with my head.
Very funny. Oh, what was Toby putting away in the freezer? It was a box full of, I wrote
like
baby
lamb.
pigs, question mark. What, do we know what animal?
It did look like an animal because we saw a head, but I don't know
I
what
thought I
kind.
saw little legs and a belly.
It looked like racks of lamb. I don't know.
And then that made me think of the ham when Jericho,
I need to go back.
And then Courtney. Okay.
It's just like such a breath of fresh air in this episode too.
Love her.
Oh yeah.
Because it's such a like effed up, heavy, weird, what the heck episode, and she just was the perfect anecdote for it.
I'm here to see our warrior queen. Waving with the bear paw.
Yeah, oh my god.
Which is another, I just love it. It's another sort of, in a way, and it's an allusion to season 1 because of the episode Bear. Later on, we see a dog.
The wild dogs.
Which calls back to Haggis. Wild dog. It's almost like there's a call to each episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all suckers for him.
Everybody loves a callback. Nice little connections. Everybody likes patterns. Good stuff.
Okay, so yeah, Dorothy takes her flowers, but Courtney is in there, and I thought the foot in the door was another great servant moment to see her shoe, and the shoes always seem to say something about the character. So I love her adorned jeweled shoe, and that she is, forceful enough that she is not going to let Leanne push her around.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah.
And I loved that. And Leanne's just so envious of anybody else getting Dorothy's attention and affection.
She's like definitely outside of it.
And then Courtney gives that interesting look to Leanne when she shuts the door. And I don't know, this also kind of speaks to the, what we've been talking a bit about, of the different maybe factions, teams, entities, groups, or whatever that sort of are here, So I feel like Courtney is on one of those teams. But then they go down and they're looking out the window and we see all the guys in the hazmat suits.
And it was interesting when Courtney was outside, you can hear the sirens and the commotion starting, but she seemed oblivious to it. I guess that's to be expected of Courtney.
That's a good point. Yeah. Like no sort of, I wonder what that is. Yeah. I thought it was really interesting to see Sean and Julian get to that window and see the hazmat suits. But I don't know, when the door was opened and Frank was standing there in the hazmat suit, the first thought that came to my head was, what if he's the one that was carrying out Jericho in the hazmat suit?
Yeah.
Well, you would assume it was the police or some such, but I guess that didn't happen either.
Because where did he get it?
And I don't know, because like we've talked a lot about who was that person. But Officer Reyes was very suspect, right? There was something with Reyes that seemed off.
Right.
And when Frank comes in, the remark he makes to Toby or to Julian is like, why aren't you wearing your suit? Like, what if it was both of them?
So that was kind of that moment for me just kind of it was like, boom, that's what I thought immediately. Whether I'm, so I jumped ahead. So we see the shot of them in the window, right? And Leanne next to Sean, and then we've got Julian and then Courtney. But I just thought it was really interesting how Leanne and Sean were standing in the same way. They were standing and they both had their hands crossed in front of them, like clasping their hands at their wrists. And they were just like still and staring in the exact same physical position
Mm-hmm.
to me, especially if you're looking out going, what the fuck? Like
Yeah.
when we saw them inside, they were like, what the fuck? What the heck?
Well, it's like a defensive.
Cut outside and we're looking from the outside in. They're just standing there stoically.
Well, sure.
Reminds me of that movie, The Others, with
Observing.
Nicole Kidman.
Oh,
You know, where they're just kind of staring out at the world going by
Every other
without them. As we see the hazmat guys going into every house.
Yeah.
Opening windows and setting up extermination and evacuating people. And the Turners are just watching from inside.
Well, it's bed bug time. Gotta have your bed bugs.
You know, this is not the first weird house situation, because we know that their house has no number on it. The other houses do.
Oh yeah, that's right.
You know, and even though I know all like this isn't total, like their door is black while the ones around it are brown. I know that there are other dark doors on the street, so that could just be me reaching, but I don't know, y'all. I really think that house is not there.
That's what it's looking like.
I don't think it's there in the actual real world. That shot was just. Now I will say though, to speak to the green window theory, the window wasn't green. It wasn't the green window.
I'm wondering more and more if that's just a continuity thing.
I think it might be. I've looked like at other shots, and sometimes the two windows on like the house next to theirs, it does look green from different angles. Like trim has that sort of sagey light green. So I kind of think it might just be a matter of either continuity or just the way light's hitting it or something. You know, people have talked about there clearly being an extra window, but I also think that a lot of times we're seeing different parts of the street. Like there's been a couple times where I'll think I'm looking at the Turner's house and it's a different house. So I don't know. I'm just, I'm not saying it's not a thing, but, and I definitely think that the house isn't there, but I don't know that the green window is.
It's been too subtle for me, to be honest with you.
And also, if it was a thing, then I feel like them standing in that window the way they were in this episode, it would have been the green window. Like that would have really solidified for me. Like, okay,
something like that.
More,
I know what you
like
mean.
loud
sure.
and
because
obvious.
it's never drawn attention to.
Yeah,
it's spotted, but
no, exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of like my picture theory with Sean. Like I notice it, but I could just be could just be something I've like attached myself to. But even in this episode, like when we see him in that bedroom, he's got those two freaking pictures with all the faces behind him. Again. And other people aren't framed that way. It's just always him.
And do you think that's an allusion to Sean having been in the cult or a cult?
Could be. It could be. I think it does. I do think it has something to do with whatever's going on with Sean. I don't know if that's like a mental illness or if it's his background, like he was in the cult, or if it's meant to be just like the faces of the people that are dead and maybe he is the dead one. I don't know, but I don't know. I do feel like it's probably a thing, but
we'll see.
We'll see. Okay, moving on. So they're standing in the window and they look weird. Okay. And then we cut to everybody's distracted.
Oh God,
and so
that
what is
face
Leanne doing?
Dorothy makes when she wakes up to her leg being shaved. It was so good.
I mean, out of nowhere. Why are you shaving her leg?
A little self-care. You haven't been yourself lately. A little self-care.
Gotta be smooth or something. Right.
Terrifying.
I used to do this for my uncle. So, I've got a steady hand. Don't worry.
That's and a straight razor? My uncle. I used to shave my uncle. All right,
cool, no worries. Oh, that's
cool about it. Yes, that's normal. And George? Are we shaving George? I have many questions.
I took it to mean George.
Well,
there you go.
She has many uncles.
Yeah.
Oh, who doesn't?
And Dorothy's been itching, this entire episode, getting worse and worse, getting visible bites on her face. My thought about the bed bugs, this might be too soon, but I don't think it was like the bees that Leanne made swarm during Hive to get rid of the people. It wasn't like the bird attack last week. It was with Leanne being tied to the house. I think the bed bugs were a manifestation of Leanne's growing frustration. Like she's subconsciously
You're being
calling
right.
them
because of how she
right,
was feeling.
and that they were maybe being drawn to Dorothy because that was the center of her frustration.
Oh yeah. Ooh, that's good,
Thank you.
Liz. Yeah, because the others weren't itching, but Dorothy was.
And like the sheer like mass of them too, like
Right.
to
Yeah.
be in a block wide or a few
It was
blocks
like the
wide.
termites, right?
Problem.
Like the termites
Right.
they were drawn to her
But this is like a wider scope.
darkness, drawn to whatever she's manifesting subconsciously
Mm-hmm.
that is tearing the house apart bit by bit.
Yeah.
And as we saw at the end of season 2 finale, when the lights go out in the Turner home and then the lights go out one by one down the block, the bed bugs
Mm-hmm.
also were hitting the block. So her power is growing, and the destruction of her environment is spreading.
Mm-hmm.
They are unfortunately associated with like homeless camps, because if you're living in a tent, you can't shower every day, but it's more about the close proximity. They spread so quickly.
So then maybe
Mhm.
another logical explanation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which was Julian's.
Yeah, of course.
I think it's more about hygiene and negligence.
Yeah. Which, I don't know, do we think that was the Julian line of the week, or what did you guys like?
I mean, that was pretty good. He's not said too much of late. I mean, so far anyway.
Okay.
He's always
So
got something.
shaving and lipstick, and then we jump down to Frank and Julian's conversation.
Oh my god.
Are you banging the nanny?
Yeah. Also, it was scary to see Leanne like slam the wall like she did when she left there. That was
Oh yeah. I
Mhm.
wrote Dorothy assaulted with lipstick. And then
Right?
Leanne got bitten.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was amazing. But yeah, so Frank and Julian, Frank asks about banging Nanny.
And then we got a little bit of a time frame clue. Courtney, 9 or 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
Hasn't she
You're right.
passed her expiration date? Trying to think back to when we first met Courtney. Wasn't it during Goose?
It was Christmas on
Season
Goose.
2, which
Mm.
tracks with the wonky
October.
timeline we have.
I just want to point out that again, we see the ring.
So, okay, a very smart Redditor pointed out that there have been threads where people have taken close-ups of the ring, and some people think that it looks like the symbol that was drawn on the window last episode, the triangle with the dots.
We have looked at these pictures, and as of yet, we're not convinced.
And what do you think
No.
it looks like?
It looks like a bug of some kind.
You said
I think.
spider.
Yeah, it could be a spider. It could be like
I thought I saw
like a coat of arms, like a crest.
like an eye somewhere on there.
Yeah, exactly. Could be an eye for sure. It's got like all those
I
shapes.
thought
on
I
there.
saw either a crown with the dotted
Yeah.
spike parts, or a
Mhm.
bee. So it's like
Sure.
a Rorschach
Also
ring.
a bug.
What do you see?
Which would be so cool.
Yeah, right. Or a mood ring.
That's what we'll call
We're not really sure what we're looking for either.
our masonry Rorschach mood ring.
Yeah.
Determined. But anyways, I just want to say there was a ring appearance. So I wanted to point that out.
It's gotta mean
and then
something, right? The Frank Julian ring
It's got
connection.
It has to. There's too many shots of the ring close up. There's too many, and it's clearly on his dad too. It's got to mean something.
Mm.
Unless
Well,
it's just meant to let us know like their great depth of wealth and influence.
it could be that too.
Could be that, or it could just be an illusion. Like, oh, they are free. They're Freemasons or something of the like, and let them mean whatever
Sure.
that means to you.
Yeah, people join
Yeah.
clubs. People
No,
have
we're
money.
not getting an answer
that's-
on it. It might just be something that tells us something about them, the family, whatever.
We shall soon see.
So, we get
Maybe.
this scene of Sean coming in to tell Dorothy what's going on.
Well, first they're in the hallway, right? The dad and Julian and Sean. And Sean has been home, but he hasn't been up to see Dorothy yet.
Right.
He says they've been texting,
Mhm.
and Frank asks, I think, if Dorothy knows, and they're like, no, she doesn't know. And Frank says, well, better not to tell her. She might hurt herself trying to get up, which immediately made me think of when Jericho died.
Yeah.
Frank was a big part of that
Mhm.
doll, keep Dorothy in the dark.
Right.
She might hurt herself.
Also, I go back to the fire that happened in season 1, that I think it's strange that a fire started that way. But the one where she goes down the stairs.
Oh, the cloth on the stove.
Yeah. When she was on
Yeah.
bed rest and she hurt, effectively hurt herself. She may have, I don't know if that was Jericho. I guess she carried Jericho to term. Maybe, who knows? But she certainly almost got hurt because she almost slipped and,
Right.
she kind of
like
got him.
twice.
So
Right.
so we have a history of Dorothy doing that. But also when Dorothy's kept in the dark and told she can't leave somewhere, she's going to do what she's going to do anyway.
There was a funny moment when the dad says, keep her in the dark. Julian says, well, and she's okay. I think Lan's with her. And all three of the men stop for a moment, think, and then
Me
look
too.
very worried.
Yeah. Maybe we should have done that. And
No better.
I did think it was interesting. Toby's cooking that mole. So we get the scene with Sean and Dorothy, and she says, you left me alone with her. She's like, I don't want you to touch me.
Right.
You left.
I would rather be bitten
Yeah.
by all the bed bugs than with her.
And I don't blame her.
Don't say
I don't
that.
blame her. It's kind of messed up.
And then we have Leanne and Julian in the nursery, where we get that important speech.
Very important.
And she says, I don't get it. It doesn't matter how much I give you, Sean, Dorothy. You're all still miserable all the time. And Jericho or Julian says, it's not as simple as that. And she says, do you know how horrible it feels to be taken for granted? It's infuriating. It's like bugs crawling under your skin. And then walks out. And then as Julian walks out, ceiling goes crack, crack, crack.
Yes.
And Julian looks up, I think maybe. And it's like, another day. Whatevs.
I also think that, that moment in front of the crib is important because they're trying to, I don't know, there's something really interesting in seeing Dorothy in seeing Julian and Leanne standing there over Jericho.
It's like Dorothy and Sean. Yeah.
Yeah. Saying like, we have to be them now. It's such a,
yeah.
And how does that not bug Julian? I'm just like, Julian, hello, come back to us. Like,
that's like a bizarre thing to say.
We have Leanne changing from her charcoal dress into the red one and putting on her makeup. So I feel like that's like evil Leanne. We're getting like she's getting more and more emboldened,
looking the part.
Talking about red being a warning of some kind. I think that would mean that she's a walking warning.
Mhm.
And I did also think it was interesting. We saw the shot of what looked to be tomato soup, just like we saw Leanne do a bunch of times, but this was boiling. So I
Right.
thought that was another interesting callback
Yes.
to season 1, and also just to the temperature of like in the house rising.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Meek little
Nice.
Leanne from season 1, I only eat soup, and now she's dictating menus,
Yes. And having mole.
having mole, comfort food. Toby in his pink
Yeah.
raincoat because he didn't have a suit.
Mhm.
Poor Toby. Poor
Oh,
Toby.
Toby.
Poor Toby. Oh. And so at this point, then Leanne goes to talk to Dorothy, and we get her big creepy monologue where she talks about how
Wait, we didn't talk about the splash. It's time to eliminate.
oh my god.
Yeah. What does that
I
mean,
can't believe
lady?
I skipped over that. Yes.
That's not medical in any way, as far as I know.
I mean, it
It's
is
to eliminate.
ish.
Is it? No, but
Yeah,
is it?
yeah, it's not unheard of. It's not too weird, but I think
have
it's
never-
eliminate and evacuate. Eliminate for urine,
I've-
evacuate for.
Wow.
I
Yeah, I've never heard that
guess.
before.
I
Neither have
want to
I.
say that I have, but I'm not going to die on a hill over it.
Either way, it's very curious. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. Everyone's just kind of being strange.
Leanne's being very harsh with Dorothy. It's like, shove,
Yeah.
maneuver.
Well, I have you where I want you, essentially.
And I think she's also trying to think of like, what is the most, I don't know, degrading position I could put her in to make Dorothy feel and know that she is weak.
And needs me.
It needs
right?
me, exactly.
If I can't make her love me, I'll make her need me.
Right.
Yeah, that's a sick person.
How interesting. Like, I thought what I found fascinating too was that like Dorothy's face looked humiliated. It looked broken. So it was
right
up to the big moment. You could see her getting pissed off. That was interesting. I thought, because I felt like the gesture was it was sneaky. It was
yeah. I was surprised by it.
Yeah. And perhaps if she had shown she was upset, I might have expected it.
Yeah.
Right.
I did not expect that. And I gasped so loud. I was like, oh my God, she did it.
Yeah. And Leanne says, accidents happen, but I'm always here to clean up after you, aren't I? And then
oh my God.
strips Dorothy of her clothes and leaves her with a sad little quilt.
What a messed up. Oh my God.
So I suppose that's why she changed.
Exactly.
Into the red dress.
Correct. Free of urine.
So she has her scene with Toby. I do think it's interesting how you made that for me?
Yeah. She's manipulative.
Yeah, how to manipulate each person. Yeah. And
this is when Julian has the exchange with the woman outside. Who's like, isn't it wonderful?
Look at all she's doing for us.
Isn't she amazing? She says, fantastic, isn't it? The gifts grow every day. You must be in awe. And then Julian says, what are you talking about? And she says, she did this to protect us from those who wish to do us harm. Don't you see? There's a war afoot. She's shielding us, shielding your family. And Julian says, God, you people are something else. Sorry to break it to you, but I think this is more of a issue of hygiene and negligence, not voodoo. And then the woman says, you can feel it, can't you? When you're close to her, there's something that pulls you in, tells you that she is the way. It's her power.
Yeah.
True.
True. All true.
Yeah, that's a very, very accurate description of what her perception and Julian's perception of her is. It's almost like too she's trying to lure Julian onto their team, right?
Yeah.
We've almost got it. We've almost got it, or at least they think so.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good way of looking at it.
Because I do feel like it's a lot of people trying to pull people onto their team.
This whole episode.
Yeah, and in general,
yeah,
the series. So creepy monologue, Leanne's looking at her and saying, we did all these things, we skipped, we sang, we danced, we played, we had girl talk, which the way she said all of that was so, it really made me think of, you know, little Leanne and what she so desperately wanted and didn't have. And you could really see that, like, she was dictating, I guess, her perception of what a happy mother-daughter relationship would look like.
Well, and this is why I don't hate Leanne, and this is why I don't see her as a villain, and this is why I have so much empathy for both Leanne and Dorothy, because I go back to the beginning of last season when Dorothy was the one going, you know, let's do our dancing, let's do our exercises. Oh, you look so good in this, you know, these pants I bought for you, and oh, you could have a life and you could go to college and we want to help you with these things, and time for girl time. And she really did have maybe not a maternal figure, but like a big sister, someone
in a normal
who
way,
was taking an interest in her, and and being sweet to her. And Leanne's like, what? How did that change? What happened?
And Leanne genuinely seems, when she says that, like, your fall was an accident, is she truly that ignorant and unaware of her powers? No, she's not, right? Because we see in season 1 how smug she is with Sean.
But she's not always in control of it. I was gonna say, no, like, I think she did do the bed bugs to some degree, but I don't necessarily know that she like did it. Yeah, but it's not always subconscious, which is the thing.
Right, that's what I mean. I think it was subconscious the way the termites were. Correct.
So it's hard.
But
yeah,
I think as I brought this up in our pre-pod talk. If you're a young girl who's been, you know, through a lot, who's been used and in this weird cult, and probably experienced a lot of fear, if you suddenly realize you've got this power, of course you'd like it. You would enjoy it. You would revel in it.
And want to explore that and
exercise it.
Yeah.
Right. Suddenly you're untouchable. Yeah. Like she says in the car last week, you can't hurt me. I'm different now. I'm something new. So, but about the fall, I mean, you know, as right before Dorothy falls, Leanne says, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a little damning.
I did wonder why Dorothy didn't say it was not an accident, and you know it.
Well, what does she say? Because she says
she doesn't say anything because Leanne keeps talking, and that's when she goes into telling her how Sean and Julian love her, but they're more afraid of Leanne than they, and that is going to overpower, and that they're not going to protect Dorothy from Leanne, basically.
Yeah. In the middle, though, she says, you know, we had, you know, good times and that.
Right.
What happened to that? And Dorothy says, I realized what you are.
Yes.
And Leanne says, what am I? And Dorothy says, you're evil.
Yeah.
And then Leanne kind of, that's when she goes into okay, I'm evil.
Which is a big moment. Because look, we've talked so much about Dorothy waking up, but if we remember, Dorothy was very much blind to Leanne's, evil ways in season 1, and Sean was the one that was like very spooked by her, right?
Right.
Completely turned, but I guess you do have a point.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Dorothy says you are evil. That is, it's as simple as that. You are the embodiment of evil, and Leanne knows, I guess. Some part of her knows that Dorothy is right, that Dorothy has found her out.
But okay, what has Leanne done that's so evil that prior to the staircase? Because I always thought it was more about Dorothy getting weird about Leanne taking over Jericho.
Right.
Well, I mean,
I wouldn't call that evil.
yeah, asserting yourself in my household just because you're taking care of my child.
Right.
She seems to think that Leanne wants her life. Perhaps she felt before Leanne like caused her to fall. Perhaps she felt, this woman wants my life, and she's insane, and my brother and my husband have fallen for it, and I need to get the hell out of here and protect myself and my son, and I want to just, be away from her.
Right, because she doesn't have the awareness of the baby aspect
and so she didn't really realize she was evil until Leanne caused her to fall. And then that put 2 and 2 together. It was like, oh, this isn't just somebody who wants my family.
Right, now this is happening to me, as opposed to like, this is always happening to me, which is weird because
but
yeah, it's happening to her. She wasn't really aware of it when it was happening to Sean.
But it was also happening to her because that's her baby, or not her baby, or whatever. Exactly. It's only when it directly impacts your like work life and your physical, like now it's a problem.
Yeah, it seems like Dorothy's not going about this in a very smart way. Like, when are you going to pick up on the fact that Leanne just wants you? And when are you going to,
like, it's so self-centered. She's not,
why won't you play to that?
Right.
And use it?
Yeah.
I also put in my notes, if I were Dorothy, if I really wanted to get rid of Leanne, who would I call? And if I wanted to keep the baby, I would call the cult, and I would say, look, I'm going to hand her to you on a silver platter, but you need to make sure that I keep Jericho.
But in order for her to be able to say that, she has to know.
Know what?
Doesn't she know? I mean, okay, so
at this point, why would you care? You've caused me so much grief. Why would I care what they do to you if they do anything to you?
She does. I'm saying she doesn't. She wants to make sure that she can keep the baby.
Right.
No, that's so what
understands that, like, oh, Leanne will take Jericho from me. Now she doesn't take it on the level she needs to, but she does know that with Leanne, Jericho goes because it's happened once.
Right.
And they made that deal at the end of season 2.
Right.
You get Jericho, but I'm a part of the family.
Right. So she wants to, and so I would call Uncle George, and I think maybe there was some foreshadowing there, because immediately after that moment, who comes down the street?
Uncle George.
How many houses?
How many houses were affected?
George, I don't know.
15 to 20.
Else. Does anyone know?
Oh?
What?
When he prays or whatever he's doing.
Oh,
does anyone know what?
Closed captioning said praying in a foreign language, chanting in a foreign language.
Well, if anyone listening has figured out what it is, we would love to know.
Yeah.
It could have been many things, I suppose.
So
there's an old.
Now, what did you make of that, though? I mean, other than him just like observing the land's destruction, like, did you make anything else of that other than perhaps it's foreshadowing?
I don't think he was doing anything, but sometimes you're just frustrated and scared, and you say, "Oh my God," or whatever it is he was saying, maybe, or maybe an attempt to call on something.
Maybe, yeah. We cut back inside. It's what is it the next morning or was it the same night? I can't.
Same night. That's when they're in the kitchen having dinner. Sean talking about the GQ.
and says it's like I can do no wrong. So again,
So weird.
influence there. And so Leanne then comes out of the kitchen. Courtney's leaving. She's upset. Doesn't want to be there anymore. And Leanne comes out of the kitchen area and she notices that the front door is cracked, which historically has been an indicator that somebody from the cult has entered the home.
Correct.
And so then she goes upstairs,
Grabs the knife.
has the knife. Yes, grabs the knife and goes towards Dorothy's room. And we have the reveal of 2 new characters. They are 2 nurses who appear to be very creepy and intimidating, and in my opinion, are cult members.
Culty. Creepy culty
Culties.
caregivers.
If you were a Lost fan, remember we had like Losties, and then we had like what was it? There was like the Rafties and
Yeah, the tailies. The tailies.
Dailies. So I've decided they're going to now be called the Culties.
They're gonna be buried
We're coming up with
shortly.
a cult.
Good.
Team Freemasons.
Oh boy.
Team Jesus. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what the third team is.
that's a different
Team
show.
How about that? I don't know.
But yeah, the way they moved towards Leanne to shut the door, it was very the way you were describing the cult in the last episode. It was awkward. It was like they were shuffling, kind of
Very
zombie-like.
zombie-like.
It was
They'll be
weird.
gone soon. Don't worry.
And Leanne says, "What? I'm trying really hard not to get angry."
Yeah. How nice.
Yeah.
While holding the big knife.
Yeah.
In case you didn't know, we were in a horror TV show.
Oh, and Dorothy says, "You're not going to win this battle."
Yep.
Oh, bad news.
Yeah. Which I just love that too, because it's like, oh yeah,
Mm.
battles,
It's on.
right? I'll win this one, and yeah. So it almost feels
Yeah.
like what is each episode going to be some kind of battle,
Sure.
it's a greater war that is happening in the show.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to have the third group identified.
Yeah.
If they're going to be.
That's the thing, is that I do feel like we've got 3 groups. I'm not or maybe I'm wrong, but I'm just not entirely sure what the third group is. We've got the cult people.
Mm.
Yeah.
We've got
If-
Leanne and her people, the youths, the homeless youths.
Right.
And then we've got this third potential group, that I think might be the Turners, whatever's going on.
Right.
Mm.
I really want that.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
So that's the episode. So I guess that wasn't the quickest recap.
No.
Well, here we are.
There was so much in the episode. There was so much. We tried breaking it down, but it was really just like these little scenes
Yeah.
where there's a push-pull, and then I guess it led up to the big denouement of you're evil.
Right.
Mhm.
And
I know what you are. Like, just so you know, I know what you are.
Yeah.
yeah, Leanne finally kind of comes out and asks for what she wants.
Right.
You used to like me. Why not? What happened?
So
Yeah, that's
I thought it was a great setup
Mhm. For sure.
for the rest of the season and what's to come. I felt like this is what I expected last week to be.
Yeah.
Not that I-
Very
Yeah.
tense. Very
It's-
immediately.
This is what I was sort of expecting. Now I say that, but I've also historically liked the second episodes of each season more than the first. 'Cause
Oh,
I
it's
feel
so
like
good.
they have so much more stuff that,
Mhm.
to go through. And I felt like this was no different from the other seasons. So I just absolutely had a ball watching it.
Oh, it was so much. It was such a roller coaster.
I was so tense.
Yeah.
Like the bed bugs and the razor and
Mhm.
Yeah.
the,
So many great like suspense thriller, horror movie type moments.
Yeah.
Next week. I cannot wait.
Yeah, it should be
That
very
seance.
exciting.
And more homage to more horror, types, right?
Oh, sure,
With
yeah.
Well, that seance scene alone was very reminiscent of Insidious.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
With the camera moving, in circles.
And it sounds
as the
like
tension
it's going
grows.
to delve into talking about some of the mythology in terms of, the ghosts or energies that are in this home and what they're doing to everybody there.
Mm-hmm.
And the house
Exactly.
itself.
Yep.
What a new introduction.
Yeah. Oh,
I love that they're going to lean into the, haunted house aspect of what's clearly been going on.
Oh, for
yes.
Yeah.
I really can't
it's
wait.
going to be really interesting, yeah.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in again. And we're just super happy to be here talking about this and can't wait to hear what you think as well. So please comment, ask questions. If there's something that you want our thoughts on, go ahead and put it down below. We'll answer it either there in the comments or, maybe in a video. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe if you want to get updates on when we're releasing the deep dives as well as all of the shorts. So, and we're also on Twitter and TikTok and all the things. So as Servant.
Yeah, a lot of build up to, I guess we'll see.
So, all right, guys, thank you so much for another great episode. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.